Welcome back to Second Chance Histories, where we explore the extraordinary moments that reveal connections between human beings that transcend our understanding of individual consciousness and the mysterious bonds that tie us together in ways science has yet to fully explain. Today's story takes us into the mind of 34-year-old Jessica Park, a woman who found herself trapped in a coma after a severe car accident, experiencing vivid memories of a life she had never lived. As Jessica witnessed childhood adventures, teenage heartbreaks, and adult triumphs that felt completely real but belonged to someone else, she embarked on a journey that would lead her to discover the most profound connection of her life, a connection that had been hidden from her for over 3 decades. This is the story of Borrowed Memories, where a woman's brush with death became a bridge to a sister she never knew existed, and where the boundaries between individual consciousness proved far more permeable than anyone had ever imagined. Jessica Marie Park had always felt like something was missing from her life, though she could never articulate exactly what that something was. At 34, she had built what appeared to be a successful and fulfilling existence. A thriving career as a graphic designer in Portland, Oregon, a loving marriage to her husband David, and a circle of close friends who considered her one of the most caring and intuitive people they knew. But despite her outward success and happiness, Jessica had always experienced a persistent sense of incompleteness, as if she were living only half of the life she was meant to have. Jessica has always talked about feeling like she's missing a piece of herself. Her best friend Maria Rodriguez often observed. She's accomplished so much and has so many people who love her, but there's this sadness in her eyes sometimes, like she's looking for something she can't find. Jessica's sense of incompleteness had manifested in various ways throughout her life. She felt most at peace in situations where she was caring for others, often volunteering at children's hospitals and elderly care facilities. She had an unusual ability to comfort people who were grieving or in crisis, as if she instinctively understood their pain in ways that surprised even her. Most remarkably, Jessica had always experienced vivid dreams that felt more like memories than products of her imagination. These dreams often featured a sense of companionship and shared experience that felt completely real, but when she woke up, she could never identify who had been with her in these dream experiences. "I've had the same recurring dream since I was a child," Jessica had told David during one of their early conversations about marriage. "I'm with someone who feels like the most important person in my life, and we're sharing these incredibly meaningful experiences together. But I can never see who it is, and when I wake up, I feel heartbroken that I can't remember." Jessica had consulted therapists about these dreams and her persistent sense of incompleteness, but no one had been able to help her understand why she felt like she was living only part of her intended life. This mystery would soon be solved in the most extraordinary way possible. On a rainy Thursday evening in November 2019, Jessica was driving home from a client meeting when her car was struck by a drunk driver who had run a red light. The impact sent Jessica's vehicle spinning into a concrete median barrier, causing severe head trauma and multiple internal injuries. Emergency responders worked frantically to extract Jessica from her crumpled car and transport her to Oregon Health Sciences University Hospital, where trauma surgeons fought for hours to save her life. Dr. Michael Chen, Jessica's neurosurgeon, managed to control the bleeding in her brain and stabilize her condition, but Jessica remained in a critical coma. "The brain injury is severe," Dr. Chen explained to David and Jessica's parents. "We've done everything we can medically. Now we have to wait and see how her brain heals." Some patients recover completely from injuries like this, while others experience permanent changes in memory, personality, or cognitive function. What Dr. Chen couldn't predict was that Jessica's brain injury would somehow unlock access to memories and experiences that weren't her own, memories that would lead her to the most important discovery of her life. On the 4th day of her coma, Jessica became aware of consciousness returning, but instead of waking up in a hospital bed, she found herself experiencing what felt like vivid, detailed memories from a life that wasn't hers. The first memory Jessica experienced was of being a 7-year-old child, building an elaborate sandcastle on a beach with someone who felt like the most important person in the world. Jessica could feel the warm sand between her fingers, taste the salt air, and hear the sound of waves, but most importantly, she could sense the presence of someone who felt like a part of her own soul. In this memory, Jessica was working on one side of the sandcastle while her companion worked on the other side, and they seemed to communicate without words, knowing instinctively what the other needed and wanted to create. "We did it," Jessica heard herself saying in the memory, but the voice sounded different from her own. "It's the most beautiful castle anyone has ever built." The companion in the memory responded with a laugh that felt familiar in ways Jessica couldn't explain. "We make the best team in the whole world." As the memory faded, Jessica felt a profound sense of loss and longing. The connection with her memory companion had felt more real and meaningful than most of her actual relationships, yet she couldn't identify who it was supposed to be. Over what felt like days in her altered state of consciousness, Jessica experienced dozens of vivid memories that belonged to someone else's life. Each memory was filled with the presence of the same companion, someone who felt like Jessica's other half, completing experiences and emotions in ways that made Jessica feel whole for the first time in her life. She experienced memories of starting school with this companion, both of them nervous about their first day of kindergarten but brave because they were together. Jessica felt the comfort of having someone who understood her fears and shared her excitement about learning to read. There were memories of childhood illnesses where Jessica and her companion took care of each other, bringing soup and staying close when one of them had a fever. Jessica experienced the unique comfort of having someone who knew exactly how to make her feel better when she was sick or sad. She witnessed memories of teenage years filled with shared secrets, mutual support through first heartbreaks, and the kind of deep understanding that Jessica had always longed for but never experienced in her real life. Most remarkably, Jessica began to notice that in many of these memories, she and her companion looked nearly identical. They seemed to share not just emotional experiences but physical similarities that suggested they might be related, or even twins. As Jessica experienced more of these borrowed memories, a startling possibility began to emerge. The companion who appeared in every memory had the same facial features as Jessica, the same mannerisms, and even the same voice patterns. More than that, their emotional connection felt like the kind of bond that exists between twins: complete understanding, shared experiences, and a sense of being two parts of one whole. In one particularly vivid memory, Jessica experienced herself as a 10-year-old, looking into a mirror alongside her companion. For the first time, she could clearly see both their faces, and the resemblance was unmistakable. They were definitely twins, sharing not just similar appearances but identical features. "We look exactly the same," her companion said in the memory. "People will never be able to tell us apart." "That's because we're two halves of the same person," Jessica heard herself responding. "We were meant to be together forever." But as Jessica absorbed this revelation, she faced a devastating contradiction. She had never had a twin sister. She had been raised as an only child by parents who had never mentioned having another daughter. The memories she was experiencing depicted a life of constant companionship with a twin sister, but Jessica's actual life had been marked by the persistent feeling of incompleteness that now made perfect sense. Jessica began to wonder if these weren't false memories created by her brain injury, but somehow actual memories of a twin sister who had been separated from her early in life. The most shocking memories Jessica experienced were from adult years that corresponded closely to her own timeline. She witnessed her twin sister, whom she somehow knew was named Jennifer, living a parallel life that mirrored Jessica's own experiences but from a different perspective. Jessica experienced memories of Jennifer working as a teacher, feeling fulfilled by helping children learn and grow. She felt Jennifer's joy at her wedding to a man named Michael and her contentment in building a life dedicated to education and family. But most remarkably, Jessica experienced memories of Jennifer also feeling incomplete, also searching for something missing from her life, also having dreams about a companion who felt essential but remained unidentifiable. In one adult memory, Jessica experienced Jennifer lying in bed beside her sleeping husband, feeling overwhelmed by sadness about the persistent emptiness in her life. "I love Michael, and I love my work, and I love our life together," Jennifer was thinking in the memory, "but I feel like I'm only living half of who I'm supposed to be. There's someone I'm supposed to be with, someone who would make me feel complete, and I don't know how to find them." Jessica realized that her twin sister had been experiencing the same sense of incompleteness that had marked Jessica's entire life. They had both been searching for each other without knowing what they were looking for. As Jessica continued to experience Jennifer's memories, she began to piece together the story of their separation. The memories revealed that Jessica and Jennifer had been born as twins but had been separated shortly after birth through a private adoption arrangement. In one memory from Jennifer's perspective, Jessica experienced Jennifer as a young adult, confronting their adoptive mother about her feelings of incompleteness and her persistent dreams about a missing companion. "Mom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth," Jennifer said in the memory. "Was I adopted? And if I was, do I have a twin sister somewhere?" Jessica experienced Jennifer's adoptive mother's uncomfortable pause before responding. "Jennifer, you were adopted, but there was no twin. You came from a teenage mother who couldn't care for you. There's no sister to find." But Jennifer's adoptive mother was lying. Through Jennifer's memories, Jessica began to understand that they had been twins who were separated because their birth mother had been able to arrange adoptions for both babies, but only if they went to different families. The adoption agency had believed that separating twins would help them develop individual identities rather than remaining overly dependent on each other. Jessica's birth parents had been told the same lie, that there had been no twin, that Jessica was their only child available for adoption. The most urgent memories Jessica experienced were recent ones, showing that Jennifer was currently facing a medical crisis of her own. In these memories, Jessica experienced Jennifer receiving a diagnosis of an aggressive brain tumor that required immediate surgery. Jessica felt Jennifer's terror at the diagnosis, her sadness at the possibility of dying without ever finding the missing piece of her life, and her desperate hope that somehow, somewhere, her twin sister might be able to sense that Jennifer needed her. "If there really is someone out there who's supposed to be with me," Jennifer had prayed in one memory, "please let them know that I need them now. Please don't let me face this alone." Jessica realized that her accident and coma had occurred at exactly the time Jennifer needed her most. Somehow, their twin connection had allowed Jessica to access Jennifer's memories and experiences during Jessica's own medical crisis. But more than that, Jessica began to understand that Jennifer was in a hospital somewhere, probably also in a coma or unconscious state that had made their mental connection possible. Jessica Park opened her eyes on a Tuesday morning after 11 days in a coma. Dr. Chen was amazed by her rapid neurological recovery and complete retention of her cognitive abilities. But Jessica's first words upon awakening weren't about her own condition. They were about finding her twin sister. "I need to find Jennifer," Jessica told Dr. Chen urgently. "She's in a hospital somewhere, and she's alone, and she needs me." David and Jessica's parents were bewildered by her insistence that she had a twin sister. They had never been told about Jennifer's existence and had no reason to believe that Jessica had been born as a twin. "Jessica, you don't have a twin sister," her mother said gently. "You've never had a sister. You might be confused because of your brain injury." But Jessica was completely certain about what she had experienced. The memories of Jennifer's life were as vivid and detailed as her own memories, and the emotional connection she had felt was undeniably real. "I need to contact the adoption agency that arranged my adoption," Jessica insisted. "I need to find out if there are records about a twin sister who was placed with another family." Despite her family's skepticism, Jessica began a determined search for information about Jennifer. She contacted the private adoption agency that had arranged her placement with her adoptive parents, requesting any records that might indicate the existence of a twin. Initially, the agency claimed that their records showed Jessica had been an only child. But Jessica's persistence and her detailed knowledge about Jennifer's life, information she couldn't possibly have known if Jennifer didn't exist, eventually convinced the agency's director to conduct a more thorough search. "Ms. Park," the director called Jessica 3 days after her initial request, "I need to speak with you in person. We found some records that were misfiled, and there's information you need to know." The meeting revealed exactly what Jessica had suspected. She and Jennifer had indeed been born as twins, separated shortly after birth and placed with different families. The agency had deliberately concealed the existence of the twins from both sets of adoptive parents, believing that separated twins would develop more independent personalities. The theory at the time, the director explained, was that twins who were raised apart would be psychologically healthier than twins raised together. We now know that this theory was flawed, but in 1985, it was considered best practice. The agency had records showing that Jennifer Park, now Jennifer Coleman, had been placed with a family in Seattle and had grown up to become an elementary school teacher. Most importantly, the records showed that Jennifer was currently a patient at Seattle General Hospital, undergoing treatment for a brain tumor. Jessica traveled to Seattle immediately, accompanied by David and her parents, who were still struggling to accept the reality of her twin sister's existence. At Seattle General Hospital, Jessica found Jennifer in the neurological ICU, unconscious from complications following brain tumor surgery. Jennifer's husband Michael was maintaining a bedside vigil, and he was amazed when Jessica introduced herself. "You look exactly like Jennifer," Michael said in wonder. She always talked about feeling like she was missing someone important, like she was only living half her life. She dreamed about having a sister who looked just like her. Jessica sat beside Jennifer's bed and took her sister's hand. For the first time in her life, the persistent sense of incompleteness that had marked her entire existence began to fade. "Jennifer, it's Jessica. I'm your twin sister. I found you and I'm here now. You don't have to be alone anymore." Jessica began sharing stories from the memories she had experienced during her own coma, memories that perfectly matched Jennifer's actual life experiences. Michael was astounded by Jessica's accurate knowledge of events, conversations, and feelings that Jennifer had never shared with anyone. On Jessica's third day in Seattle, something remarkable happened. As Jessica sat holding Jennifer's hand and talking to her about the memories they had somehow shared, Jennifer began to show signs of consciousness returning. Jennifer opened her eyes and looked directly at Jessica with immediate recognition. "Jessica," Jennifer whispered, her first word after 5 days of unconsciousness. "I've been dreaming about you my whole life." "I've been dreaming about you too," Jessica replied, tears streaming down her face. "We found each other." Jennifer's recovery from her brain surgery was remarkably swift once Jessica was present. Dr. Patricia Rodriguez, Jennifer's neurosurgeon, was amazed by the improvement in Jennifer's condition. "Jennifer's brain function has improved dramatically since her sister arrived," Dr. Rodriguez noted. "It's as if having Jessica here has provided the emotional support her brain needed to heal effectively." The case of Jessica and Jennifer attracted the attention of Dr. Sarah Chin, a researcher at the University of Washington who studied consciousness and twin connections. Dr. Chen was fascinated by Jessica's ability to access Jennifer's memories during her own coma, and by the timing of their medical crises. What Jessica and Jennifer experienced challenges our understanding of individual consciousness, Dr. Chen explained. Jessica somehow gained access to her twin sister's memories and life experiences during a time when both women were in altered states of consciousness due to brain injuries. Dr. Chen's research revealed that identical twins often report feeling each other's emotions and sometimes even physical sensations, even when separated by great distances. But Jessica's case represented the most documented example of one twin accessing the other's detailed memories and life experiences. The connection between Jessica and Jennifer suggests that consciousness may be more interconnected than we typically assume, Dr. Chen concluded. Their experience indicates that the boundaries between individual minds may be more permeable than conventional neuroscience suggests. The reunion between Jessica and Jennifer transformed both of their lives completely. For the first time, both women felt whole and complete, with the persistent sadness and sense of incompleteness that had marked their entire lives finally resolved. Jessica and David moved to Seattle to be closer to Jennifer and Michael, and the two couples developed a close friendship based on their shared commitment to maintaining the twin connection that had taken 34 years to restore. "Having Jennifer in my life has changed everything," Jessica reflected 6 months after their reunion. "I understand now why nothing ever felt quite right before. I was literally missing half of myself." Jennifer's experience was identical. "Jessica completes me in ways I never understood were possible. It's like I had been trying to live with half my heart and half my soul, and now I'm finally whole." The twins discovered that they had developed remarkably similar interests, career paths, and life philosophies despite being raised in completely different environments. Both had been drawn to helping professions. Both had married kind, supportive men, and both had felt called to care for others in ways that extended far beyond their professional obligations. As Jessica and Jennifer rebuilt their relationship, they discovered that their mental and emotional connection extended far beyond the memories Jessica had accessed during her coma. They found that they could sense each other's emotions and physical sensations even when apart, often knowing when the other was in distress or celebrating good news before any communication had occurred. Jennifer's recovery from her brain tumor was remarkably complete, and her oncologist attributed part of her successful healing to the emotional support provided by her reunion with Jessica. Jennifer's immune system and overall physical resilience improved dramatically after Jessica arrived, Dr. Rodriguez noted. "There's growing evidence that strong emotional connections contribute significantly to healing from serious illnesses." The reunion between Jessica and Jennifer also had profound effects on their extended families. Jessica's adoptive parents initially struggled with learning that they had unknowingly separated twins, but they eventually embraced Jennifer as the daughter they had never known existed. Jennifer's adoptive parents had died several years earlier, but Michael's family welcomed Jessica as the sister-in-law they had always hoped Jennifer would find. "It's like our family suddenly doubled in size," David observed. "But more than that, Jessica is finally the person she was always meant to be. The sadness that used to shadow her happiness is completely gone." Both couples began advocating for adoption policy changes that would prevent the unnecessary separation of twins and other siblings in the adoption process. Dr. Chen's study of Jessica and Jennifer's case contributed to growing scientific understanding of twin connections and consciousness. Their experience suggests that identical twins may share forms of consciousness connection that persist even when they're separated from birth, Dr. Chen published in the Journal of Consciousness Studies. Jessica's ability to access Jennifer's memories during her coma indicates that the boundaries between individual consciousness may be more fluid than previously understood. The case inspired additional research into twin connections and led to changes in adoption practices that prioritized keeping siblings together whenever possible. While the scientific community continues to study the implications of Jessica and Jennifer's shared consciousness experience, the twins themselves are less concerned with understanding the mechanics of their connection than with celebrating its restoration. I don't need to understand exactly how I was able to experience Jennifer's memories during my coma, Jessica says. What matters is that it led me to find the person I had been missing my entire life. Jennifer agrees. The most important thing isn't how our connection works, it's that it exists, and now we can finally live as the complete people we were meant to be. Today, Jessica and Jennifer live 3 blocks apart in Seattle, where they both work in helping professions. Jessica as a graphic designer specializing in healthcare communications, and Jennifer as a special education teacher. They speak multiple times daily, often finishing each other's sentences and sensing each other's needs before they're expressed. Their husbands have become close friends, and the extended family they've created has become a model for the kind of connection and support that makes healing and growth possible. People often ask us if we're upset about losing 34 years together, Jennifer reflects. But we don't see it that way. We see it as gaining the rest of our lives together, and that feels like the most precious gift we could receive. The case continues to be studied by researchers interested in consciousness, twin connections, and the mysterious ways that human beings can remain connected across time and distance. Jessica Park's coma experience and her subsequent reunion with her twin sister Jennifer reveal the profound connections that can exist between human beings even when they're unaware of each other's existence. Her ability to access Jennifer's memories during her own medical crisis suggests that consciousness operates in ways that transcend individual boundaries, and that the bonds between people, especially twins, may be far stronger and more mysterious than conventional science has yet understood. The borrowed memories weren't borrowed at all, Jessica realizes now. They were shared memories, experiences that belonged to both of us because we were always meant to be together. My coma just allowed me to access what had always been there. Their story proves that some connections between people are so fundamental that they persist across separation, silence, and even unconsciousness. The persistent sense of incompleteness that had marked both Jessica's and Jennifer's lives wasn't a psychological quirk. It was accurate perception of a missing essential relationship. Today, when adoption professionals study Jessica and Jennifer's case, they learn not just about the importance of keeping siblings together, but about the profound psychological and even physical effects of separation between people who are meant to be connected. The borrowed memories that led Jessica to find Jennifer remind us that our deepest relationships may exist in ways we don't yet understand, and that the people we're meant to be with will find their way into our lives even under the most extraordinary circumstances. In a world that often emphasizes individual achievement and independence, Jessica and Jennifer's story proves that some of us are meant to live in connection with others, and that finding those essential relationships can transform us into the complete people we were always meant to become. Their borrowed memories became shared dreams, and their shared dreams became a reunited reality that healed the incompleteness both women had carried their entire lives. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen not through searching the external world, but through exploring the mysterious connections that already exist within our own consciousness, waiting to guide us home to the relationships we need most.